every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Hello and welcome to CoreTV Prime Time News, broadcasting live from our studio here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Abosedi Umowi. Our top stories tonight. Many thanks for joining us on CoreTV Primetime News today. Now to details of the news. The Supreme Court has come up with reasons for its verdict affirming the election of Nyesom Wike as a validly elected governor of Rivers State. Our judiciary correspondent Basil Okafor reports that the crux of the judgment of the court is that the trial tribunal and the lower appeal court were wrongly swayed by INEC guideline on the use of card readers for the election.
The Apex Court panel of justices held that the tribunal was wrong to base its judgment on non-compliance on the use of card readers. The panel, while commending INEC for the introduction of the card readers, is saying the innovation cannot supersede the voter register. It observed that the extant law of the Federation provides for the use of voter register, but the card reader, irrespective of its importance, does not have a place in the extant law of the land. The court also advised INEC to approach the National Assembly for an amendment to incorporate the use of card readers. On the issue of allegation of violence and hijacking of ballot boxes, the court held that Dakuku Peter's side failed to bring witnesses from all the polling units to substantiate his claims.
At the point of delivering the ruling, the panel had changed. The chairman had been removed. Another chairman, the new chairman, Justice Ambusa, with respect to him, who was not part of the panel that held the application, presided at the delivery of this ruling. And that was one of the issues we raised, that we were not heard, because the panel that gave the ruling was not the panel that heard us. That's elementary law. And the Supreme Court said today, no, that was wrong. We were not heard.
The panel held that Amosun's challenger, Boyega Isiaka of the People's Democratic Party in the state, failed to prove his claim, as he called only 12 witnesses out of the 1,672 polling units.
They were categorical that the law has not changed. You see, if you want to prove a petition, you have to do it polling unit by polling unit. So they stated that the petitioners failed to prove the petition polling unit by polling unit. First of all, you don't place reliance on the card reader. They commended INEC for introducing the card reader, but they said for the card reader to take the place of the voter register, then you have to elevate it to the provision of the Electoral Act.
Witnesses were not called in from all the polling units to give evidences, says the court.
In other news, ridding Nigeria completely of the Boko Haram scourge has become paramount to the Nigerian government, and partnering with the international community is another step. President Muhammadu Buhari's talking with the economic community of Central African states in that regard.
Receiving a message from the president of Equatorial Guinea, President Buhari says he welcomed the effort to organize a joint meeting between the ECCAS and the economic community of West African states with a view to coordinating their responses to the threat of terrorism in the Lake Chad Basin area. President Buhari is also impressed with the concern for Nigeria's security problems by Equatorial Guinea and gave assurances of his commitment to enhancing security and bilateral relations between the two countries. The special envoy of the Equatorial Guinea president, who brought the message, says President Mbasogo is prepared to expand and share security intelligence and information with Nigeria to help in the war against corruption and terrorism, while requesting for a meeting of security chiefs from both countries. From the presidential villa in Abuja, Abiola Oluwole, CoreTV News.
Now, the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, is calling for a revamp of Nigeria's security architecture so as to improve security. The monarch made the appeal in Abuja while addressing members of the Course 24 of the National Defense College on the implications of traditional and religious institutions in national security. The monarch also says there is an urgent need for the government to address the problem of Almajiri in the north, which he referred to as a source of worry to the nation. The Nigerian Air Force has established a Directorate of Civil-Military Relations to earn and sustain the support of the civil populace for its operations and activities. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the Director of Civil-Military Relations of the Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Afam Chukwu, says the security challenges faced by the nation, especially in the northeast, requires a holistic approach by all Nigerians for the military to achieve sustainable success. The director also announced the establishment of a public information complaints desk in the directorate in order to smoothen outstanding rough edges and enhance the mutual benefit between the military and the civil populace. Now, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, in Delta State says it has arrested 6 suspected pipeline vandals in Ogwashiuku community near Asaba and 6 suspected bush burners in Saple and Ogara communities. The NSCDC commandant in the state, Beatrice Irabo, discloses that the suspects were arrested in the early hours of today on a tip-off and with the help of various vigilance groups in those areas. She says the suspects were being prosecuted based on the power granted the NSCDC on pipeline vandalism, adding that the suspects, upon interrogation, confessed to the crimes. Irabo, however, appealed to the federal and state governments to provide it with the needed equipment to further strengthen and empower the Corps for better service delivery. The Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, says his men are on the trail of the Niger Delta militant leader, Government Ekpemokolo, also known as Tompolo, over allegation of diversion of public funds. Arase disclosed this during a tour of the Ekiti command, adding that the police will ensure they arrest him wherever he is cited. Ekpemokolo has been declared wanted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over alleged diversion of a sum of 45.9 billion naira in the execution of contracts. A federal high court in Lagos a couple of weeks ago issued a warrant of arrest against him as an order sought by EFCC to get the accused person to face justice. Tompolo, who is facing 40-count charge, is being tried alongside the ex-Director General of the Nigeria Maritime Safety Agency, Patrick Akpobolokemi, in connection with the alleged diversion of a sum of 45.9 billion naira in the execution of contracts. The familiarization tour of the Inspector General of Police gets to Ekiti Command as the Ekiti Command laments shortage of manpower. Rashid reports from Ekiti as the police boss decries shortage of men and equipment in the state.
In continuation of his familiarization tour across state commands, the Inspector General of Police, Solomon Arase, passes his recommendations. But this did not deter the CP in Ekiti to lament the shortage of men.
Such among the problems is the issue of acute shortage of manpower. Manpower flight. It is instructive to mention, sir, that the establishment of the command at inception was put at 7,749, but the current strength of the command stands at 3,543, comprising 215 SPOs, 375 inspectors, and 2,953 rank and file.
Arase admits the men's complaints, promising to look into the welfare of the police, especially through house and skin.
I can assure you that it is because you are there that I'm an Inspector General of Police. I will not be an Inspector General of Police if I don't have men around, and that is So I am passionate about your welfare. I am concerned about you. I will always do all those things that I define, of whenever they talk about the police force. I am always very, very passionate. I can stand on any platform, internationally and nationally, and articulate that the Nigerian police force is one of the best we have in the world. I said, I am going to ensure that every member of the rank and file and inspectors, before you retire, I will make you to assess at least a 2-bedroom apartment where you want to retire to.
While the IG train moves to another state, the visit is expected to motivate men of the force in discharge of their duties.
Now to another report from Ekiti State. Student rampage at the Afeba Balola University has no doubt raised so many questions on the lips of many. While normalcy has returned to the institution, the Alumni Association has come out to condemn the student act. This is coming as 17 of the alleged masterminds were arraigned at an Ado-Ekiti High Court. The report.
The overnight attack, which took place at Afeba Balola University, was sent tongues wagging for a while. Then what is described as a move to correct some misrepresentations. The alumni of the institution condemns the rampage, asking current students to seek better ways of venting their anger.
In whole, the Sunday night riot was one act that should not have been. If students had issues, they should have explored the channel put in place to resolve such with the management.
While some students point accusing fingers at the school security apparatus, the management says much lesson is learned from the mishap.
We have learned an array of lessons, and certain measures are able to be placed to ensure that the peace, I was going to say disruption, the peace and serenity that this university is known for will never disturb.
In the meantime, 17 students arrested for alleged complicity had been asked to be remanded after an Ado-Ekiti High Court refuses to grant them bail.
Say no to violence.
Now we'll take a quick break, but when we return from this break, we'll bring you details of the federal government making moves to curtail spending for service-wide vote by ministries, departments and agencies. Join us for details after this break.
The Federal Inland Revenue Service FIRS calls on all corporate organizations operating in Nigeria to register for the purpose of payment of taxes and obtain a tax identification number TIN. All registered companies must obtain a tax identification number immediately from the nearest FIRS office. You can also collect and return tax registration forms from the Federal Inland Revenue Service Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Teams (FEET) on compliance checks exercise in your area. A company which is yet to commence business after at least 6 months of incorporation must pay a pre-operational levy of 20,000 naira in the first year and 25,000 naira for subsequent years to obtain its tax clearance certificate (TCC). Note that filing and payment of VAT and withholding tax returns must be done on or before the 21st day of every month. Register for VAT. File all tax returns as and at when due. Be a responsible corporate citizen of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
Are you aware that the death percentage attributed to Lassa fever cases is currently put at 43.2%, a figure considered very high? Lassa fever, an acute viral illness characterized by high fever, muscle aches, mouth ulcers and bleeding in the skin, is harbored by rats and spread to humans via the urine and droppings of rats. To prevent Lassa fever, avoid any exposure with rodents, rats, as well as food and objects contaminated with rat secretions and excretions. Report all suspected cases of Lassa fever immediately to the nearest healthcare institution. Help prevent Lassa fever. This message is from the Federal Government of Nigeria.
Glad to have you back, and if you've just joined us watching CoreTV Primetime News, reaching you from our studio here in Lagos, Nigeria. A quick recap of our top stars. All our top stories, all the news and information can be found on our social media platforms, facebook.com/CoreTV News, and on Twitter @CoreTV News NG. And on our YouTube channel, it's youtube.com/CoreTV. Leave a space for news. Moving on, the federal government is making moves to curtail spending for service-wide vote by ministries, departments and agencies. The restriction is due to abuse of the vote by the MDAs over the years. Correspondent Basi Aye reports that the Senate Committee on Finance wants prudent management of funds.
The Minister of the nation's economy is again appearing before the Senate Committee on Finance, whose members are asking questions on management of the huge sums domiciled within MDAs. And in her response, she says the votes are mere budget contingency to cover unforeseen circumstances which has suffered abuse.
We need to know who manages the service-wide votes, who manages it. So if the Minister of Finance, without prejudice to what answers that the Minister provides, so that we know that it falls entirely under the purview of this committee in terms of oversight. So we need to know who manages the service-wide votes. Yeah.
We don't think that's the right way to go. We think that actually service-wide votes should be last resort, that there's no other place where this money can be taken from and therefore be used service-wide vote. So what we're going to do is try and strengthen the controls. You're correct, it currently sits in the DG budgets. With the change and the creation of the budget ministry, I think we'll have to see where in the budget, budget and planning people have put that.
The committee is also seeking a proper monitoring and scrutiny mechanism for MDA's budgeting as part of fiscal discipline.
We've talked about efficiency unit here. I think that if expenditures are monitored and scrutinized, they will have an implication in terms of operating surpluses. If, for example, you found out that in the past, a particular corporation will generate 100 billion, and at the end will spend 101 billion, making it impossible for them to declare surpluses. Where to attack or to tackle is its budget, and then they spend the expenditures. You can scrutinize them. The efficiency, you can go through all that. So you still go ahead and you are not going against the law.
We've started the audits because we need to understand what are the actual costs of these agencies, and more importantly, what should the costs be? Because these agencies fall into two categories. Some are what we call fully funded. They receive salary, capital and overhead from the federal purse, and then they generate revenues. So the question is, those revenues, what exactly are you using them for? If we've paid all your salary, we gave you overhead, we gave you capital. So in those cases, maybe out of the independently generated revenue, up to 50% should be surplus.
The Ministry of Finance, in the course of the meeting, also gives insight into efforts at recovering monies allegedly paid to about 23,000 ghost workers under the Integrated Personnel and Payroll Information System, IPPIS. Members of the committee are calling for a full-scale investigation and appropriate sanctions on all those who are culpable. Basi Aye, CoreTV News, Abuja.
As the Senate Committee on Finance, they are calling for prudent management of the nation's funds. In other report, reviving Nigeria's economy is one of the issues Nigerians are calling on the new administration of President Muhammadu Buhari to work on. Speaking on our flagship program called Digest, these analysts x-ray the causes of the present state of the economy and how the government can achieve the best out of the dwindling economy. Our correspondent brings the details.
The state of the economy has been the challenges boggling the minds of Nigerians, as many lament lack of money, poor standard of living, and instability in exchange rates, and many more. This economic strategist says lack of planning and monitoring has caused Nigerian economy to be dwindling, and it is unfortunate that corruption is more prominent.
Because of economic planlessness, we are now experiencing economic emergency and pain. Whether we like it or not, budgets must be adjusted. benchmarks must be adjusted. We are going to see panic. There will be uncertainties that can be justified. And because of that, what are we supposed to do? Should we leave everything to break down? And that was why we said, tough times or tougher times don't last. But tougher people, tougher regimes, tougher measures last.
The present administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, in its bid to fighting corruption, has many plans for the nation at large, but inadequate planning and timing have been a major challenge.
What you have here now is that the inaction, so to speak, of the previous government is what has brought us, to our knees right now. But I see a government, right now the government we have now is a government that enjoys so much goodwill from the people, which brought them in to this level where they are now. So in order for them to actually give back to the people based on this issue of goodwill, is that I see them in a hurry. I look at that they are in a hurry now to fix certain things. Look, when you want to fix the economy, you are not in a hurry, because whatever you are going to do has to endure. When you hurriedly fix certain things, you hurriedly have problems there.
Callers on the program took turns to express what they feel about the state of the economy.
This country has been ruled by the military for some time now, and they are ruling it not on democratic system. But the constitution that we are using now is degree, and this degree they turn it to constitution. And this thing is being led by some certain groups or certain area. They need to decentralize this country. I think the problem is not with the president, but the problem is the so-called technocrats. The technocrats, the people working in the various ministries, they are the ones to accuse. The ministers themselves, they are not all agree. Honestly, if ministers, like some of them claim to be, they are supposed to have taken their time to go through all these documents.
It will be expected that the state of the economy will be revived and restored to its glory days.
Analysts are speaking on the state of the Nigerian economy. Now, to other reports, the role of strategic communication is pivotal in nation building and national development, as the Buhari-led administration is gaining more attention in the area of collective responsibility from the government and the people. For proper implementation of government policies, the federal and state government should introduce an effective communication policy to carry citizens in line with its developmental goals. This is the opinion of some media stakeholders at an event on strategic communication. Our correspondent, Akin Obakeye, brings the report.
Media stakeholders all gathered at the lecture to shed light on the role of strategic communication in nation building and national development. The guest speaker points out the need for a collective participation by the government and the citizens in nation building.
Every citizen is an actor, an object of development. Everyone contributes to nation building or sadly serves as a drag, generating friction and causing a huge waste of scarce resources and energy. Perhaps only when citizens of the country have nurtured a true shared vision, transcending personal agendas, can the process of national development reach the tipping point of separated groups.
In similar opinion, the publisher of Business Hallmark opines that the government needs to build the image of Nigerians in attaining a collective national development.
We need to build up the image of the Nigerian person, to believe in his country, to love his country. But to do that, the government has to take the first step. It's not the citizen, it's the government to lead, to show the way, to educate the people, to mobilize the people. The work of information minister or commissioner, as has been said, is beyond merely informing the public.
In a bid to synchronize with the national development drive, the Commissioner for Trade and Investment in Akwa Ibom State stresses the role of the state government in empowering its indigents towards nation building.
And of course, once you stand out and with a dream, with an idea that is marketable, of course, the state will come in, to give you assistance in terms of either for further training, because as we speak, we are sending our people out for training. The other day we sent a group of people to Israel to be trained on mechanized agriculture. The other day we sent about 200 people to be trained in Abuja on the power sector. The other day we sent 1,000 youth to be trained on the ICT applications. So we are doing continuous training of our youth, especially those that have come up with clear dreams of what they want to do and what they want to become.
The call by media stakeholders to the government on introducing and implementing policies on strategic communication is believed to be coming at the right time as the federal government seeks to introduce policies that will have an immediate effect on Nigerians. Akin Obake, CoreTV News, Lagos.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it is willing and ready to help in the process of bringing credibility to the electoral process at the local government level, just as the federal elections now have credibility. Chairman of the Commission, Mahmoud Yakubu, says the Commission will join in the process with any willing state independent electoral commission. Correspondent Kozim Kazali has more in this report.
The INEC boss, while welcoming the leadership of the Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission to his office, says the Commission is interested in making a difference in the credibility of the electoral process at the local government level. He says the Commission will offer any assistance that will aid this process.
By way of conclusion, that once again I would like to welcome you to INEC and to express our appreciation for this courtesy call and for your determination to leverage on what INEC has done in order to improve and enhance the local government elections in Kaduna State. It is only when a commission such as yours is determined to make a difference, and a major difference indeed, that you will find time to come to INEC to learn from the experiences of this commission for the purpose of strengthening your processes and procedures.
Speaking earlier, Chairman of the Kaduna State Independent Electoral Commission says the leadership of our commission is in Abuja to explore areas of cooperation with INEC to help in improving the credibility of the electoral process as the state prepares for local government elections.
We're going to work with all the stakeholders because it is our desire and our commitment to ensure that the local government elections in Kaduna State are free, fair, peaceful, and credible. That's our commitment, and we'll do everything we can to ensure that that happens.
CADSEC also says it is working hard to lay the groundwork for the conduct of the elections and ensures that the elections at the local government level is credible like that at the national level. Kozim Kasali, CoreTV News, Abuja.
Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike suspends the State Commissioner for Finance, Fred Bakol, and the Accountant General, Abere Dagogo. Wike, in a statement issued by Special Assistant on Electronic Media, Simeon Nwakaudu, says the two official suspension was with immediate effect without giving any reason for the action. Our President Muhammad Buhari says the late Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Samuel Odulano Odugade, who died on January 19, 2016 at the age of 101, was a blessing to Nigeria because he lived without blemish. President Buhari, who was represented by the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the funeral service of the monarch at the St. Peter's Cathedral, Aremo Ibadan, says Nigeria would remain proud that a forthright king like Odulano lived among us and left a legacy worthy of emulation. While delivering the president's message, Osinbajo relayed President Buhari's regret of not attending the burial service. Now, after the break, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says his armed forces will try to retake the entire country without hesitation. Join us again for details of these and other stories from outside Nigeria.
Is it crazy or autocracy? Or what type of crazy is that? Except crazy.
News making the headlines.
Black Maria is to carry criminals, trading looters that are in government today.
Sometimes it gets confrontational.
Slap you in the face. Excuse me, don't put words into my mouth. Whatever it is that will bring our military to disrepute, I said to hell.
On Core Digest,
I want to know why I should be believing them.
Every weekday, we bring all of these together and take them to the court of public opinion.
Everybody have your right in Nigeria.
Where you are the judge.
You can now watch CoreTV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to CoreTV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click CoreTV, leave a space, then News. CoreTV News, a 24-hour news station.
Thanks for being there. Now to report from outside Nigeria. 2 United Nations peacekeepers have been killed and 30 others wounded when attackers hit their base in northeastern Mali. An official from the UN's MINUSMA mission discloses that the camp at Kidal was attacked this morning, saying that they fought back, but 2 peacekeepers were killed and 30 others injured. The attack comes just a week after 4 assailants and a Malian soldier were killed in an assault on a UN military camp at Timbuktu. The sprawling north of the country continues to be beset by violence, having fallen under the control of Tuareg-led rebels and armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda in the year 2012. Rwanda's government says it plans to relocate Burundian refugees to other countries after being accused of involvement in destabilizing activities in its crisis-hit neighbor. In a statement, Rwanda's Foreign Minister Louis Mushikiwabo on Friday says her government will immediately begin to work with partners in the international community to plan the orderly and safe relocation of Burundian refugees to third countries. Mushikiwabo maintains that the refugee exodus is troubling, pointing out that it also exposes refugees to increased threats from forces at home and compromises lasting political solutions. Burundi has been in turmoil since President Pierre Nkurunziza announced plans in April to run for a third term, which went on to win. Hundreds of people have been killed and at least 230,000 have fled the country. Rwanda is currently hosting about 75,000 Burundian refugees. In a report on the foreign scene, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad says his armed forces will try to retake the entire country without hesitation. In an interview published after world powers agreed on a cessation of hostilities, Assad said the involvement of regional players in the conflict means that the solution will take a long time and will incur a heavy price. He also rejects the UN's recent accusations that his regime is guilty of war crimes, describing the claims as politicized. Earlier this week, international investigators say that several thousand prisoners have been executed, beaten to death, or otherwise left to die during Syria's civil war. The head of the UN-backed Commission of Inquiry on Syria, Paulo Pinheiro, also disclosed that the mass scale of deaths of detainees suggests that the government of Syria is responsible for acts that amount to extermination as a crime against humanity. In other news, Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev says the deployment of foreign ground troops in the Syrian conflict could result into a world war. In an interview by the German newspaper Handelsblatt, the Russian Prime Minister pointed out that a ground operation draws everyone taking part in it into a war. When asked about a recent proposal from Saudi Arabia to send in ground troops to Syria, the Russian Prime Minister says the Americans and the Arab partners must consider whether or not they want a permanent war. Medvedev also criticized Western powers' refusal to collaborate with Russia in Syria. The Prime Minister says ties at the level of defense departments were only sporadic. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter welcomed a commitment from Saudi Arabia to expand its role in Syria against the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant ISIL group, which was disclosed at a gathering of more than 24 defense ministers at NATO headquarters. Still on the foreign scene, a 5-story building has collapsed in the center of Istanbul, though Turkish authorities say no one is believed to be trapped under the rubble. The building collapsed in a street near Istanbul's pedestrian Istiklal Avenue, a main shopping district in the popular Taksim area. Addressing journalists, Istanbul Governor Vasip Şahin, who confirmed the incident, said there was no casualty as people near the building had alerted those inside the building. The cause of the collapse is, however, not known. And now to sports. And sports on CoreTV Primetime News today, Ugandan League two-time champion Vipers SC has edged past Eyimba 1-0 in the first leg of the CAF Champions League preliminary round. A 20-minute goal from Erisa Sekisambo was enough to give the Ugandan side a home advantage into the second leg match in Port Harcourt in a fortnight. Nigerian striker Shola Amiobi has signed for English League One side Fleetwood Town till the end of the season. The 34-year-old joins the club on a free transfer after being released by English Championship side Bolton Wanderers following the expiration of his contract. Though Amiobi offered to continue to stay at Bolton for free, the cash-strapped club had been stopped from signing or registering new players. The striker believes he has joined an ambitious club and wants to use his experience to help the young stars at Fleetwood. Amiobi has already trained with his new teammate and could be in line for a debut at Port Vale this weekend. And finally on sports at this time, Manchester City great Paul Dicker believes Pep Guardiola will be fascinated at the prospect of working with Nigerian starlet Kelechi Iheanacho. Guardiola, who will replace Pellegrini at Manchester City at the end of the current season, boasts of a trophy-laden career. Iheanacho has scored 8 goals in all competitions for City this season, and the club believes Guardiola will be monitoring the lad closely. The former City striker praises Iheanacho's humility and points out the role it will play in shooting the lad to a meteoric rise under Guardiola's management. Now, that's it on CoreTV Primetime News. But before we go, another look at our top stars. It's been so great having you join us on CoreTV Primetime News today. My name is Abosedi Omowi. On behalf of the crew, have a great evening.